So a young child, I can surmise he's like elementary school age, is with his mother who has visitation rights. From what I gather from the article, he lives with his father. Now, he has a sister, but the article does not say for sure if the sister is older or younger. But I think the father has custody of both children. He was just on visitation to with his mother. Thankfully, based on what I'm about to tell you, the father is the custodial parent. We love dogs, right? I don't have one because you have to train them. I'm more of a cat person because cats to me are lower maintenance for one. For two, always wanted a cat. I could theoretically get a dog once I own my own business full time one of these days, or something where I'm home permanent and the dog isn't locked in the house all day. I don't condemn people who kennel their dogs. I just don't condone it for my household. The ideal of kenneling an animal whose job and whose I won't say job, who's genetically made up to roam all day, to me just seems cruel. That's my opinion. It is not a fact that it's entirely cruel to leave a dog in the house all day. I just don't like the ideal of it. I'm not a man, so I don't know how you all feel. But say you dropped your kids off with their mother. Because the article doesn't say if the mom and dad were ever married. And in that house, your ex, her boyfriend, and the child's uncle, so we can surmise that the uncle is the mother's uncle or brother, are inside of that house with a pit bull. Your son was asked to clean up after the pit bull, but for some odd reason either forgot or just didn't do it. Three so-called adults, including your ex, decide that as punishment, this child should be handcuffed at the hands and the feet because rope wasn't enough to hold him down, so that the pit bull can attack him as a punishment and he wouldn't be able to run. This all being done while his sister is present to see it happen. The grandmother, it didn't say whether she's the maternal or paternal grandmother, arrives presumably to pick the kids up and notices that her grandson is bleeding at the ear and a few other body parts because he's been attacked by a pit bull, and so she curses. And out of the corner of her eye, this same dog sneaks up on her and she puts her hands up in defense but takes wounds, but nothing like the grandson. The cops are called and all three are in trouble. This woman has the unmitigated gall to sit in a courtroom, the absolute audacity to say, "I didn't know handcuffing my own child was wrong." Those aren't the exact words she said, so I'm letting you know that's a paraphrase so that she can't come back and sue me later on. Her excuse was that she went along with what the uncle said. Sweetheart, with all due respect, you are the parent. You could have chosen a better way of punishing your son, like sending him to his room and grounding him if he didn't want to clean up after the dog, because the article does not specify why he didn't. But you thought it was okay to allow your son to be cuffed at the hands and at the feet and be punished by the dog because he didn't want to clean up after the dog. And it doesn't say exactly what he was cleaning up after the dog, or else I missed it. Okay. I understand why the father got custody. This reaffirms what I've said. And look, I'm not sitting here saying that this is what all mothers do. So please don't come jump down my back. I've lived with a single mother and a single father as well. It's nice in this case because, to my knowledge, this child is expected to make a recovery and go back to living a standard childhood, but it's not like the nightmares are going to go away. Some judge with some type of temerity or common sense decided that the custodial person of these children should be the father, and let's give that person kudos for that. Hats off to you for having the sense enough to know. But let's be honest, if a person doesn't outwardly show violence in the beginning, a judge is not obligated to strip parental rights. But it's clear to me why this woman does not deserve to be the parent of this child, or the custodial parent, if a parent at all. I'm not going to make speculation of what she could have done prior to this child being tied down. But I'm happy that the grandmother got her wounds dressed and that her hands are going to be okay, and that this little boy is recovering. Can you imagine having the understanding and knowing that your own mother acquiesced to you being handcuffed by foot and hand and can't move, and being attacked by a wild animal? Because according to this story, the dog has been taken into custody and is housed in a place now where it can't be let out around people anymore. I forgot the term that they used for it. So the dog wasn't, to my knowledge, according to my understanding of the article, euthanized. Can you imagine knowing that your own mother and your own uncle and your mother's boyfriend acquiesced, 3 adults that should have been looking out for you to be tied down in a manner where you could not run, all because you didn't clean up after a dog? And see, the thing is, the article doesn't specify why the child didn't do the chore that was assigned to him. That part of it, we all know, doesn't matter. 3 adults decided it was okay to tie a child down and do this. Again, I'll reiterate, I'm glad that the courts have caught up and reconciled that some mothers just aren't sound mothers. Dogs are our people's companions. When trained right, dogs are excellent members of a family. But make no mistake, there's evolution within those animals that when pushed they can and will hurt someone. But this is a case of a dog that had the tendency to be vicious, and a woman who probably should never have had her children in the first place. But to be fair to the judge that made the father the custodial parent, they couldn't have predicted this. But by making the father the custodial parent, we're moving in the right direction in society and recognizing that not all women are maternal. Forgiveness is something that I hope this child can find, but is an afterthought in comparison to his trauma. Because those are the emotions that a child should not have. Imagine lying in that hospital bed and now you're recovering, and the magnitude of what your mother allowed, what your uncle allowed. Is setting in, and to know that one of these days you'll know that you were in a newspaper and your own mother will sit there and say she did not know that it was not okay to handcuff you, when most people out here with children, because I don't have children and don't know, have the absolute common sense to know that that ain't right. Here's hoping that the courts continue to catch on to this nonsense. Godspeed, little boy. I'm glad you and your grandmother survived. I'm glad she showed up in the time she did. Because if she hadn't, only the good Lord knows how much worse this would have been. And Godspeed to your father as well.